Confrontation and Diffusing the Fires. Hello, everyone. It's me, Nomad. Again, this is going to be my third video. It's been a lovely day. It's raining and it's a little bit chilly, so I have my unicorn onesie on and my glasses because I've been reading. So I decided, why not sit down and talk a bit about confrontation and how to diffuse the fires of confrontation. Okay, so we all at some point in our lives will be faced with confrontation, whether or not it's in the workplace, whether it's not in your personal life, with friends and family. At some point in our lives, we will be faced with a situation where there will be confrontation and we will have to act accordingly. And it's honestly up to you to decide how you are going to steer the confrontation. If you're like me, who honestly avoids confrontation as much as possible, but sometimes you can't avoid it completely and it just creeps up on you like a ghost, and you get scared and you might react in a way that you, thinking back, might not be proud of. So, in saying that, I've had many situations in my life where I have been faced with confrontation, and there were situations where I reacted in a very good way where it worked out for both parties, and then there were situations where I didn't react in a very good way where it just made it worse. And that's something that I want to talk about, is making it worse. Okay, if someone comes up to you and they have an issue that they want to address with you, a natural response that we have is to get very defensive, because you often feel like you're being pushed into a corner and then you lash out. Sometimes when you do that, it might backfire in your face, because speaking of from experience, by lashing out at someone, you like the fire, you just fuel the fire, and it gets to a place where it might burn everything to the ground, and then instead of trying to diffuse the fire and walking away with I mean walking away and then you feel good about yourself because you handled it pretty well, you might stand there and then everything has gone up in flames and you might be regretful. So in saying that, I think that if you are approached with confrontation, something that you need to do is, first off, you need to be sure of where you stand in the situation, because someone can't come up to you and approach you and you don't know what's going on. So first, find common grounds with whoever has approached you or whatever, and then once you've found common ground, then you can start discussing. If the person immediately comes at you with aggression and hostility, then you can diffuse it still. You can still have a calm demeanor. You can talk to them in a very calm voice. I think when it comes to a shouting game, when you start raising your voice, because then the person wants to one-up you, and then you naturally want to respond by one-upping them. And that's where it creates something that is called a shouting game, where you just shout at each other and you're getting nowhere. You're talking over each other, you're not letting the other one talk, you're not hearing what the other person says. And that's another important thing. If you have confrontation with someone and you have to settle it now, because you can't run away from it anymore, like you've been doing, like what I do often, you need to speak to them in a way that will make them feel guilty for raising their voice or for being aggressive, because I don't know, that's how it works for me. If someone approaches me and they're aggressive, I will try and diffuse it. I do try and speak in a calm voice. I say, okay, what is the issue and what can we do about it, and why do you feel that way, and what have I done to make you feel that way? But if the person is not willing to be open to approaching this in a different way, then I think the best thing to do is to just cut it off. Honestly, because if you want to try and approach it in this way and that person wants to approach it in a different way, it's not going to go anywhere, because no one is going to listen to anyone, or one person might be listening but the other person is not listening, and they are in any way going to follow their initial way of addressing the issue. And like I said, find common ground. You won't be able to find common ground then. And in my opinion, then I think it's useless to actually even bother trying to sort it out. Like, I've had situations, because I used to work in retail, and there you are faced with a lot of confrontation, and it's hard sometimes. I've, when I just started working there, I had someone that came up to me and they were really, really nasty, and it could have been handled a different way, but I wasn't given the opportunity to try and diffuse. And in the end, we got nowhere, and that person stormed out very angry, and I felt upset. And I was very upset because the person said harmful things and very mean spirited things to me. This person that doesn't even know me was climbing into my character, and I let it get to me. And I was upset afterwards. I had my lunch break not long after, and I cried, and I actually considered quitting. I considered quitting my job because of one person that was able to really get to me. And that's another thing. You shouldn't let anyone get to you, actually, because they are going to walk away from this mad as hell, or they don't even care, and you are going to be left in a very vulnerable place, and you're going to feel very bad about yourself, or you're just going to feel really low. And and it's not necessary. It's so unnecessary for you to allow anyone, regardless of who they are, to ever get to you in that way, where you start doubting yourself and you start feeling really down, and you don't feel great, and you don't feel like yourself, and you feel awful. So yes, another thing, family and friends. Wow, I think the thing that can hurt you sometimes the most is the people that you expected the least from. And I've had that happen to me many times. I've had massive falling outs with friends, I've had massive falling out with family, and it got to a point where we couldn't resolve the issue, because it started off as one issue and it escalated over time, and it just got worse. And then after a while you get to a point where you just completely distance yourself and isolate yourself from those people, whereas you could have, in the beginning, you could have handled the situation and you could have gotten common ground, and who knows, things might have turned out in a different way, and might have had you might have that person still in your life. And I know if you're watching, you might be able to relate and say, well, yes, I've had situations like this where I've had falling outs with family and friends, and unfortunately they are no longer in my life. just like me, I have had a lot of family that we just don't speak anymore. And you know what? It's a hard pill to swallow because you think about what you had with that person and you think of what could have, where you could have been today had things not happened the way that they did. And I'm going to be honest, some of the some of the times it was my fault. It was my own ignorance to not handle the situation in a better way. It was my own ego, and see, we get very defensive sometimes, and sometimes when you know you are in the wrong, but you're too proud to admit it, you get extremely defensive. You really go extra defensive because you know you are wrong, but you are not willing to admit it. And then the person that is confronting you, they know that you are wrong, and they get so frustrated because you're just not budging. You are not listening, and you're not digesting what they're saying, and you're not making an effort. And if you don't make an effort to resolve the confrontation, then you can't blame them because it goes both ways. You have a part to play and they have a part to play. If they approached you and they were willing to address the situation or try and resolve the confrontation or any hostility that you have between you, but you weren't willing to, like I said, find common ground, then you honestly have no one else to blame but yourself, unfortunately. That is the way that it works. We're humans, we have emotions, and we hold grudges. Um, there are situations where I regret my actions and I wish I had handled it in a different way, but in saying that, we can also learn from those situations where we didn't necessarily react in the way that we think we should have. And I think that's also beneficial for you to grow in your spiritual growth and your mental growth, is learning from your own mistakes and what you did wrong, and now knowing that you did it wrong there, and then when you are faced with a situation similar, you might approach it in a different way. So it's good to make mistakes, but as long as you can learn from them. If you continuously portray the same behavior when it comes to confrontation, then you are not learning. You are not improving. And we as individuals, I think we should constantly strive for improvement. I mean, talking about myself, if I look back at where I was even a year ago and where I am today, a lot of growth. Why? Because I allowed myself to grow from situations that I came out of. And I'm not just talking about confrontation. A lot of things can teach you valuable lessons. But now, specifically talking about confrontation between you and someone else, you need to take what you did wrong and use that to improve on how you react the next time, if there is a next time. And let's be honest, there will be a next time because l- people love confrontation. Yes, people do love confrontation. A lot of people out there enjoy really going for the jugular, and it's difficult sometimes for you being someone that's not someone that handles confrontation very well, or someone that tries and avoids confrontation. And another thing that bothers me is if you give off a very hostile and, standoffish type of attitude, energy, someone is not gonna come and try and approach you, because if you're not approachable, then you can't say, then why didn't you come to me? I'm not gonna approach, if I've got a problem with someone, I am not gonna approach them if they are very hostile and standoffish and they don't want anything to do with me, because that just completely demotivates you. You need to be open in within reason, of course. I'm not saying you should get into confrontation, or not confrontation. I'm not saying you should get into something if you know it's not worth it and you know this person is just trying to rattle you up or hit you with low blows. But if you know that it's something that needs to be sorted out, I think you need to be more approachable. And that's also something that I've learned, being more approachable. If someone comes to me and says, you know what, I have an issue with you, I'm going to be like, okay, fine. What is it? Tell me that. But that's the thing also. You can't say to someone, but why didn't you come to me and we could have sorted this out in a proper, decent way? Because were you really planning on approaching it like that? Because I've had many situations where I thought the right thing to do was go to this person and say, look, this is the issue that I have. Can we sort it out? And they immediately just kicked off and took it the wrong way, and it just spiraled out of control like it sometimes does. So then you can't really say, but why? If someone has an issue and they didn't approach you and they might have, you know, chosen a different route to handle it, you can't blame them. I'm not saying it's right, but you cannot blame them because you didn't create a space where they were able to approach you. I'm not saying that you're in the wrong then. A lot of people tend to be very standoffish and throw up these walls because they don't want to be approached, and they don't want to be confrontational, or they don't want to be confronted, they don't want to talk about it. And that's another thing. If someone does not want to talk about it, if someone does not want to address the situation or in any way acknowledge it, if they really made it clear that they do not want to, do yourself a favor and let it go. I think that's something that is very important to remember, is you need to be able to let go, because if you keep hammering at something and you're not getting anywhere, you are wasting your own time where you could have spent that time struggling with something and use the energy that you used on that to put it into something positive. Instead of going back and forth with a friend that you know you're not going to get anywhere with, you could have used that energy to boost another friendship or create a new one. If you in the workplace have a colleague that is constantly being an issue, and you have tried approaching them, you have tried speaking to them, and they are just not budging, then I think also in the workplace, which is very important, is you need to have a level of understanding. You are colleagues. It's all fine and well if you get along and you become work besties. Work besties are the best because they make it so much better to work where you are. And I've had a few very, very good work friends who actually are still friends with me today. And I'm grateful for that. But then again, in saying that, there are also some people that you will just not be able to get through to. We're so unique as human beings, and our personalities are so different. It's often very difficult if you're someone who gets along with everyone to find someone that does not want to get along with you because your personalities might clash or your energy is not compatible. And I think then the best thing that you can do for yourself and that person is to keep a level of distance. Acknowledge the person is there, but you are not going to push and poke at them. Because by doing that, you are potentially creating a door for something that should have not happened. And I'm talking about if you keep going at someone and you see that they're not having it, and it then becomes confrontation, which is something that you don't want. And confrontation in the workplace between colleagues is the absolute worst. I've had it before. It's really exhausting, and it honestly, even though you try to let it not influence your work, it often does. So I think the best thing to do, if you have someone like this, you have someone that is not going to budge, you need to keep a level of distance, be like, okay, I respect you and you respect me. I understand that we are not going to break common ground. That's fine. You do you and I'll do me. Great. Okay, and in closing off, family. Wow, I've had a lot of issues with my family, very close family members, which is it's upsetting and it's heartbreaking because that's your family. I mean, people that have been there since you were born, and now they're not. And that's also a very difficult pill to swallow. But the same principles apply. If you don't handle it in the correct way, you drift away from each other. If this person is not willing to break common ground with you or to talk to you, debate, whatever, move on. I know it's not easy, but sometimes it can be very toxic for yourself and it honestly keeps you from your growth. And I think that's something that we need to see as a priority is our growth because we grow every day. We grow every day emotionally and we grow every day mentally, and I think it's very important for us to surround ourselves with things and people that will motivate growth. So I think that is it for now. If you're watching this, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I've really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I really appreciate you for watching. And I will see you on the next video, which might be soon. Who knows? Like I said, just winging it. Okay. Goodbye.